texture of your hair? Who taught you to hate the color of your skin to such extent that you bleach to get like the white man? Who taught you to hate the shape of your nose and the shape of your lips? Who taught you to hate yourself from the top of your head to the soles of your feet? Who taught you to hate your own kind? Who taught you to hate the race that you belong to?
Welcome again to Street Talk. My name is Ahmad Shakaraki. And on Street Talk, we deal with political, social, and economics here in Michigan, the U.S., and abroad. Now, joining me tonight,
Dennis Burnside.
Charles Thomas.
Paget Maynard.
Okay, man, we got a lot to cover. How about this thing? They pulled this lady off of one of the things she was on.
Yeah, the Foreign Affairs Committee. Ilhan Omar, the congresswoman from Minnesota. Last year, maybe the year before last, she made some comments having to do with the apartheid state Israel and the way they treat the Palestinians there. And reflexively, people criticized her as being anti-Semitic, as if the fact that you treat people of a certain race or religion differently and with fewer rights than the general population is somehow anti-Semitic. The idea that you can tell people they can't access trade, they can't leave the country freely, they can't leave their neighborhoods freely, they can't vote and have it in a meaningful way, that they're subject to search and seizure without any type of due process. And I could go on and on about how Israel treats the Palestinians, but the idea that you criticize that makes you anti-Semitic is one thing. But then we have the people who are criticizing her as being anti-Semitic. Paul Gosar from Arizona was one. Here's a man who has gone to white supremacist meetings with Nick Fuentes, an avowed, unabashed white supremacist, and made statements about the righteousness of Adolf Hitler. He said that out loud. We had Marjorie Taylor Greene, also a critic of Ilhan Omar, who voted to remove her from the committee, who said that the reason why we were having forest fires during the dry season last year was because of Jewish space lasers. And again, I could go on down the line of the obviously anti-Semitic, racist behavior from these people in the Republican Party, but that's rewarded. When you speak in defense of the Palestinians, that's seen as somehow anti-Semitic and deserving of you being removed from your committee. So again, it's the same old song of hypocrisy and the same old song of double standards.
Look what this man said about the woman from New York.
AOC.
Yeah. He said,
Yeah. I mean, you could fill up the show with statements and behaviors from the right wing of the Republican Party, vis-a-vis anti-Semitism, vis-a-vis racism, vis-a-vis sexism. They go down the laundry list, and I think that's why people vote for them, because again, I've said this on the show many times, the vast majority of the people who vote for the Republican Party see no benefit from voting for the Republican Party. There's no economic policies that benefit them. There are no civil or constitutional rights that are upheld by the Republican Party that would benefit the working class whites that vote for them. The one thing that they get, and they get it in huge portions from the Republican Party, is the permission to be hateful and racist. And that's what they like. That's the reason why they're so loyal to the Republican Party.
I'll say this 1,000 times, man. It's like, I remember when we was trying to get people out to vote in 63, 64, man, it's like people walking around with rags on their feet and everything, but still they vote Republican because they was in bad shape, but they figured that Republican would would keep us in voice shape.
Yeah.
You know.
Yeah.
You know.
Yeah, keep us ahead because everybody thinks that all black people are Democrats.
Yeah. Yeah.
You know,
yeah.
so yeah, they keep the lead.
Yeah.
But this book that the Honorable Louis Farrakhan wrote, The Secret Between the Jews and Negroes.
No, he didn't write that. He edited
Yeah,
it.
right. He edited it, but it
It's
was come
important.
from scholars.
Well, but not to cut you off, but just to set up for the audience, what the Nation of Islam did was research archives and written history of the transatlantic slave trade, and they just put in the original words, in the original text
Document.
what the slave traders said. And in doing so, in printing the words of many self-identified Jewish men and women who were involved in the slave trade, Minister Farrakhan was called anti-Semitic for doing that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So not to
right, and it was pure truth.
Yeah.
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 Well, it wasn't a matter of conjecture. It was this person here who identifies himself as a Jewish man
Said.
who was a enslaver and
Mm-hmm.
a trader or financer of enslavement,
Yeah.
or one who was involved in the export and import of enslaved
Mm-hmm.
people, said on this date I paid this much for this person,
Mm-hmm.
and on down and down the line.
Yeah.
So it's
So
not
tell me.
disputable. So if you don't have an argument, you use ad hominem.
Mm-hmm.
You say to someone, "You saying that
Right.
is anti-Semitic."
Right,
Well, first of all, I didn't say a damn thing.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
I read what
Right.
was written by a person
Yeah.
who claimed to be anti-Semitic.
Yeah.
But you know that again is getting off track from what happened in Congress, where you had white supremacists who not only hate black people
Oh yeah.
and
yeah.
they hate Native American people and they hate Asian people,
Yeah.
they hate Jewish people.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Unless and until they're in their party and they're doing their
Yeah.
duty. And of course, there are some Jewish MAGA types and
Oh,
right
yeah.
wingers,
Yeah.
but they have no regard for the people who historically call themselves Jews. They have no respect
No.
for them.
No.
They use them just like they used Diamond and
Anybody.
Silk
Yeah.
and Clarence
Yeah.
Thomas and the South Carolinian senator.
Yeah.
They use them because they have internalized
Yeah. Yeah.
this white supremacy. They've internalized this hatred for black people,
Yeah.
and they are the best avenues to get the message out. When someone black says
Yeah.
what they say,
Yeah.
it gives them cover.
Yeah.
Yeah. And the whole premise of that religious situation that we were talking about earlier, idolizing a white image as a god.
Mm-hmm.
On history, everything that happened took place in Africa, just like Tarzan. Tarzan was controlling the animals and all that,
yeah.
and he's in Africa.
Yeah.
He's raised by
Yeah.
dogs. And then they got this image of Jesus being a hippie, a white man, and he's running religion. They want you to pray to him. He's the savior of the world.
Yeah.
And we fall for that.
Yeah.
And they use that to keep us away from the truth and keep us in the condition that we're in and in poverty. And they don't want to see us,
Oh, no.
melanin people, come together.
Oh no.
Because if we come together, that's their demise.
And one of the things is, man, is that we kind of pulling away from religion and kind of on the outside, but still we want to believe it's that white man hanging up there behind the preacher,
Yeah. Get you scared and you're shaking in your boots.
Yeah, I'm gonna tell you, man, it always puzzled me when I was a little kid, about 9 years old. This man up here sweating and going on, and it's like, wait a minute. And there's a white Jesus hanging up behind him, man.
Yeah. And that's what they're promoting.
Yeah.
Yeah, they're not promoting
Okay,
righteousness,
guys.
they're promoting religion.
Let's swing back to where we
Okay.
were.
Okay. I'm sorry. We
Okay.
got off.
I
we
don't
got.
want us to go too far.
But that's where
and
white
miss out on-
supremacy come
As
from.
far as you're talking about the young lady that they booted out of her,
Yeah.
her committee, we understand part of it, a big part of it, is the fact that they're retaliating because Marjorie Greene was booted out. But she was justifiably booted out, and it was bipartisan when she was. Same way they want to get rid of Schiff and what's the other guy's their name from California?
Eric
Swalwell. There's nothing that the present, what's his name, McCarthy, nothing he could bring to anybody to justify removing them from the committees, other than he's just showing how stupid he is.
Yeah.
You have people who are knowledgeable, experienced, and you prefer not to have them, but you're going to push this fake, whatever his name is, from New York. You're going to push him on committees. Well, at least now he says he is going to recuse himself.
Yeah,
Well-
but he's got a lot of nerves because he was involved in the insurrection. He shouldn't even be allowed to do and to run the House because
about
He shouldn't be in
McCarthy?
yeah,
there.
I mean he was right there on stage.
Well, that's part of the response from Eric Swalwell when he was talking about the removal of Ilhan Omar from the committee. He said it's ironic that we have open insurrectionists,
Yeah,
people who try to tear down the U.S. government, remain in
democracy.
Congress and are voting on the participation in committees of other members of
Yeah.
Congress, despite the fact that they're insurrectionists,
Yeah.
despite the fact that they're traitors,
Yeah.
despite the fact that they defecated on the Constitution,
Mm-hmm.
did this openly and with the support of their voters,
Mm-hmm.
which leads you to a logical place of understanding that we're not talking about decisions that are made with respect to what's right and what's wrong, decisions that are made based on empiric information. We're looking at people who have an agenda, and their agenda is to make as much money as they can and to stay in Congress long enough to become wealthy.
Yeah.
It doesn't take long anymore.
No.
So they'll do and say whatever they need to do and say to stay there, but it has nothing to do with the dinner table issues that their constituents would prefer that they act on. It has nothing to do with that. They're in it for themselves. And when you see people who act that way, and they still get reelected, they still get confirmation, they're going to continue to act that way.
right.
Exactly.
Well,
That's
They
who
have
they
no
are.
incentive to change.
Right,
Yeah.
that's who they are.
You know,
They're haters.
Yeah, and
And
we
they're haters and they're greedy.
and,
greedy.
and we see what we see now. You know, we've seen it for the last probably three elections is that
President.
the dumber you get, the better your chance of being in Washington.
Rising, yeah.
Yeah, you know.
Imagine that, eh?
Yeah. What's this guy
You're
that
telling me that I don't need any kind of sense in my head.
No,
No way of being able to identify anything.
no. If you're a
sensible.
Republican,
Yeah.
and
Right.
it's easier for me to get in.
right?
yeah,
You know, even this guy that's lied everything about himself.
George Santos,
Yeah, he's still
if that's his name.
yeah.
Exactly.
But they're keeping him in there because they can
need a
manipulate his. They need his vote.
yeah. That's
Well,
right.
they
Forget
want
this
him in
one.
the same reason they wanted Herschel Walker in.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's somebody that they can just say,
Do this.
stick
Yeah.
their hand up there behind like
Right,
a puppet,
yeah,
say,
and run their lips,
and,
yeah.
and
Yeah.
vote for this.
Yeah.
Yeah.
They'll be obedient.
Yeah.
Yeah.
They'll do what they're told.
Yeah.
For George Santos, this I believe the average salary for the House is 175, 180.
Yeah.
That's the most money he's ever made for
Yeah.
his life. So him sitting there denying
to
the
do
lies
it.
that he's told
Mm-hmm.
is the best plan for him he's ever had with respect to making
Yeah.
income.
Yeah.
Right.
Same thing happened with Margie Taylor Greene.
Oh.
She's got the qualifications to be in Congress with this water bottle.
Yeah.
Oh.
Now she's been there a couple of years though.
Yeah.
And she sees where the real money comes
Yeah.
Right.
from. And
She's
people in
zeroing
the House
in.
making multi-millions of dollars. But because let's just be honest about it. The way our government works, thanks to the Supreme Court and Scalia, is that we have legalized bribery.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
And they don't want to give up that payoff.
No.
Yeah.
No.
So for her, she's now talking about it's a waste of time for her to be in the House because she doesn't make very much money. Well, relatively speaking, compared to what she makes from the under the table deals, of course she doesn't. That's
But
a
not
few
only
pennies
that,
on the
you know,
dollar.
Dennis.
But that's not the reason why people vote for her. The reason why people vote for her because she's hateful and racist.
Yeah, yeah.
Just like they are.
Right. Yeah,
Well,
yeah,
you know,
yeah.
She is,
white supremacy.
Marjorie is complaining about the salary. She's also saying like her life has changed so much. She was making so much more money before going there. And I'm gonna read something here. It's not a life that I think is like something that I enjoy because I don't enjoy it. Well, if you don't enjoy the life there, why are you there? Why don't you leave? Why are you trying to move on further?
You can leave any time. All you got to do is appoint somebody to take her place and get going. You know.
What she said, what he just quoted, is a non sequitur. It's meaningless.
Yeah.
It means nothing.
Yeah.
It has nothing to do with the truth.
Right.
That's just her trying to mask what she's up to. Same thing goes with this balloon that floated across the country last week. Oh, people lost their minds.
Yeah.
Now, first of all, every country in the world that is at least in the G8, if not more, spy on one another.
Oh, yeah.
We spy on France, we spy on Britain, we spy on our allies, and they spy right back.
Yeah.
Israel got caught spying on us several times.
Yeah.
Now, here's what the problem is. You get this balloon come across the country, and you got the usual loudmouth, Ted Cruz, et cetera, talking about this as a reflection of Biden's weakness, right? And just like you could predict, a couple days later it comes out that 3 balloons floated across the country when Twitler was president, and not a word was said about that.
Right.
Was that him being weak? Was that him being distracted by him doing under-the-table deals with the Russians? I mean, what was the rationale for him allowing 3 balloons to come across if it's so fundamental to our freedom and our security? I mean, it's the end of the world now that happens under Biden. And then when they shoot the balloon down, and give a rationale why they should shoot the balloon down. Well, you took too long. So again, I'm telling you, man, if they found an ant crawling across the desk of the White House, they would somehow turn that around into being some type of failure on Biden and the Democratic Party for not securing the White House. I mean, they use anything to distract.
Right. But what's frightening, Dennis, is there's a lot of low-minded Republicans that believe that. And that's why Fox ratings jump up, because them idiots, them uneducated, mind-working folks, they believe that, and that's why Donald Trump was able to do what he did.
Well, you know.
And he's still trying to get back in there.
Right.
But I promise you this: if Donald Trump gets back in the White House,
he'll never get
it's
back.
the end of America.
He'll never get back in.
I hope you're right.
Hey, this. You know, if I was a betting man, I would bet, but I'm not gonna bet. Not a betting. But look,
you ain't sure.
But look, man, there's no way he's gonna get back because people out here in that party, they're gonna be fighting against each other. You know, the woman, what's her name? She says she's gonna be running from South Carolina.
Nikki Haley.
Like
Nikki Haley, and the woman from she got beaten this last time from Arizona. No, not Arizona, Wyoming.
Liz Cheney.
Liz decided she's running.
She said she's gonna run. The clown from Florida, you know.
DeSantis.
So you know. And I've seen two more people. I can't remember who they were, but anyway, it's just going to be.
Hey, listen. Be careful, you know, because Trump's 30-something% of the party gonna stick with him. So he still, if we have a large crowd, he stands a better chance of getting the nomination.
But I mean, if he won the nomination, he would.
Well, Biden will just get a chance to kick him again.
Well,
he should be in prison.
Yeah.
Well, we know that might be before, you know. So it's no guarantee he's gonna even be able to run, but just per chance.
Well, I think that this clown from Florida right now is the guy who a lot of people will be voting for because you know he's a racist. You know. Look what he's done, was trying to do. to blacks in Florida, you know.
Well, you know what angers. Well, just to put a button on that, Trump leads head-to-head against everybody in the Republican Party, and he's a favorite going in. Who gives a damn? Because whatever they bring is going to be an obscenity.
Mm-hmm.
But let's go to Ron DeSantis and what he's been doing with the educational system.
Right. Yeah.
He said that AP African History, Advanced Placement African History, which is a program that gives high school students an opportunity to earn college credit and to buff up their resume for acceptance into top schools. All my children took AP classes. I encourage them to do that because you get credit when you do go to college, and it challenges you. He actually said that African American history has no value, no educational value. So. They have been going on and on and on about critical race theory, and as we've reviewed on this show several times, critical race theory, as designed by Dr. Derek Bell of Harvard in the 70s, is not taught in any public school or private high school for that matter, anywhere in the country. So they've expanded the definition of CRT to mean any black history that I'm not comfortable with my children learning. For example, that Tulsa, Oklahoma happened. That we had somewhere between 45 and 50,000 African Americans lynched between the end of Reconstruction and the early 1960s. That to them is something that it should not be taught because it makes their children feel bad. So when you have a situation like this, it's bad enough. But then you have the College Board, which sets up these AP classes, and they used to make most of their revenue from the SAT and the ACT. Well, most colleges don't require those anymore, so their revenue's gone down. So how do they make money? They make money by endorsing and providing some type of minimum standards for these AP classes. Well, you get fascists like DeSantis coming along and saying, we don't want that taught. It makes our children feel bad. No other justification. They can't say that it's not true. They can't go to Bell Hooks. They can't go to Ta-Nehisi Coates. They can't go to any of the writings of the late James Baldwin, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. Some of the authors that have been banned from this, and say what they taught wasn't true. What they can say is it controverts what I want my children to know about me and my ancestors. And that is the justification. And the College Board has gone along with this because they make about $1.5 billion a year. And they don't want to lose that revenue. So they're willing to sell our children, sell our children out in order to keep these right-wingers happy with the cover-up of the truth of our circumstances. Not only here, but in the diaspora. They don't want that talk.
But see, that's how Lucifer works.
Go for that, Lucifer. Ain't no such thing
as
Lucifer.
Lies.
Lies.
Look at it. Look at this then. You don't want to teach this because our white kids are gonna be unhappy. But what happened to our black kids who are not being taught?
They're not counted.
What they need to know about themselves. Aren't they going to be unhappy? Aren't they going to be, well, why? What about us? Where did we come from? We had to come from.
What they are saying,
ridiculous.
What they are saying is the black kids don't count no way.
Right. They don't want to know the truth.
Right. You know, it's like, hey, you know, just let them. Let's
keep telling these lies.
We got about 5 minutes.
4
minutes. So what do you think about what's, you know, with them down there and like you said, some of the schools already are talking about, I know in Florida they're talking about they're talking about what DeSantis want, you know.
Well, if the College Board continues to concur with DeSantis, you won't have AP African American history offered anywhere in the country, because without the board's endorsement and stamp of approval, it won't be offered. And so, you know, I remember back during the Bush administration, you had the Texas school board decide what was going to be included in the curriculums for elementary, junior high, and high school students all across the country, because they ordered so many of the books that it was economically beneficial to the publishers to give Texas what they wanted and give everybody else the same thing. Of course, California stepped in because they have a large number, and that was kind of mitigated. I think what you're seeing now is pretty much the same thing, where you have these right-wing fascists, these racists, who have the economic leverage to say to the college board, you're not going to teach that here in Florida. And they look across the country and they say, well, we'll concur with you in Florida, but in order to do that, we've got to do the same thing across the country. Now, it's going to take, in my opinion, parents of African-American students to come to some type of concurrence on this thing, where they say, until such time as the history of my people is taught in these schools, I'm going to pull my children out and we'll go to private schools. Now, that's not practical, of course, because that's not what a lot of impoverished people can do. But the standing remains the same. You teach my children the truth, or we've got to do something else. And right now, I think what children have learned from the time that we've had public schools in this country that has to do with African American history, the true African American history, came from their parents. It came from their grandparents, it came from aunts and uncles, it came from people in the community who told people what really happened in Tulsa, what really happened to your great uncle down south who died mysteriously. You know, it takes that kind of effort to keep this message alive, and I don't know how well it's working.
But it's our responsibility.
We need to keep that up, Dennis.
Because if you wait for
that up. But at the same time, it must not negate, and we should not sit back and let them take the formal education in the schools and teach the kids what they need to know about their background.
Well, you know.
Well, but look at it, man. You're going to teach me about the whites and the whites' background, but I must know anything about myself.
Dennis just said, man.
Sure.
This country, and I've said it before, is racist now as it was in the 50s.
I'm gonna say this: white people are always gonna push us out of the way. They even got their children thinking that Moses was a white man, and everybody in the scripture was was Elizabeth Taylor play?
Speaking, I don't care what.
She played Cleopatra.
Yeah.
Well, again, you know, we're going to talk history. You got to talk history. Cleopatra was white. Cleopatra came down through the lines of the Ptolemy pharaohs, who were not African. Ptolemy should be synonymous with fake. It was the Greeks who came in and said, oh, you got this nice spiritual system here, keeps your society peaceful, keeps you able to
harmony,
raise these beautiful edifices, it keeps your people happy. Well, I want you to call me under Set Petit, aka Pharaoh. And they said, no, man, you can't be a Pharaoh. You're not qualified. You don't have any of the education. You're not from here. You can't be a Pharaoh. So the Ptolemies started with the very first Greek ruler who called himself a pharaoh, and through that lineage came this character that Elizabeth Taylor played. And her role in history really was nothing more than a glorified hoe. She went from Caesar to Mark Antony. She had babies by. She's nothing we should want to claim.
Whosoever will may come.
All right, man. We gotta cut it off right there.
Don't let anybody make you think that God chose America as his divine messianic force to be a sort of policeman of the whole world. God has a way of standing before the nations with judgment, and it seems that I can hear God saying to America, you are too arrogant. If you don't change your ways, I will rise up and break the backbone of your power, and I'll place it in the hands of a nation that doesn't even know my name. Be still and know that I'm God.